Alright guys, so this is a disclaimer that I'm going to be putting in front of the next couple videos. What I'm going to be doing over the next, this weekend, today, and probably tomorrow, is I'm going to be opening up the rb25 Neo. Got a lot of parts that I've been collecting for this operation. I have the water pump, head gasket, valve cover gasket over here. I have the N1 oil pump, ARP studs, HKS timing belt over here. All of this is what I'm going to be installing when I open up the motor. So it's going to be one big install session, but I want to give each piece its own video. So I'll probably be reusing like the teardown footage and stuff like that up until the point where I replace whatever part the video is after. And that's more so for the people that's like following the channel, just so that, you know, if you see repetition within the next couple videos, that's what it is. If this is the first video you've seen it, cool. If this is another one or the second or third one, just feel free to skip until the actual part that you need, because you got a lot of work to do. Water pump is going to be right here, timing belt is under the cover, valve cover gaskets up here, head gasket of course in the middle. So just for starters, there's that, and then the head studs and all that stuff. I am going to install the injectors, but I'm not really going to make a video on this because it's literally just adding some grease to it and sticking it in there, so that's not video worthy for me. Those will be installed in the process of me doing all this, but I won't make a video on that. So with that being said, let's get started with this teardown. And then for the cover, I'm going to be taking off both pieces, so all this stuff is going to have to come off as well. But for starters, we're going to start with the top. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, it's 4 on this side, 5 up here. And keep in mind, cam angle sensor, please mark where it currently is so that you can put it back in the same place when you take it off, because this is gonna really affect how your engine performs when you put it back together if it's not aligned properly. So there's that. And that's pretty much how to get the top parts off. As for these timing components, I'm gonna do that second, and then I'll show you guys how to go about getting all these belts off and stuff like that, so that we can get to the bottom side in order to do the water pump and the oil pump and all that good stuff. So yeah, let's go ahead and knock this off and then resume. All right, so for the front, I took a marker and I marked kind of roughly where every bolt is, similar to this one, for the cam angle sensor, in case I have to take it off. Not 100% sure if you need to, but you may need to, so I marked it anyway. And all these bolts are 10 millimeters. I already broke them loose for the most part. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are 10s as well, I believe. Yeah. So those are 10 millimeters as well. That's all you're gonna need to take off all of this. I'm gonna go ahead and disassemble this real quick and go from there. So I did take the cam angle sensor out. Be very careful with that. Those are, if you don't already know, they're extremely delicate and very important for your engine to run right. But after I took that off, this is pretty much loose, as you can see. So this is probably just a matter of time until it's off. So of course you gotta kind of like finesse it a little bit. Something maybe, nope, never mind, it just slides up. So yep, after you get all that done, timing cover's off, and there's your timing belt. Mine looks like it's in pretty decent condition, honestly. I'm changing it anyway, but yeah, it's always nice to inspect this stuff before you continue further. But like I said, I'm changing mine anyway. So that is where you get access to your timing belt. Now, in order to change the belt, there's some tensioners and stuff that's on the bottom side that you're gonna have to get out and out and untensioned, so that you can, you know, loosen this up so that you can pull it off and everything. But this is how you get to this point. Now I gotta go ahead and get this ready because this is gonna be powder coated as well. All right, so now the next steps that we have are getting these belts off, these accessory belts. So the alternator belt, power steering belt, and the AC compressor belt. And in addition to that, the harmonic balancer has to come off for the oil pump. Now this, to get this out the way, I'm pretty sure it's just these 10 mils that I broke loose, and that pops off this fan housing or fan mount shroud cooling thing, whatever. This is only the OEM clutch fan. This is where it mounts to, if you have one. This is pretty much the way to get that off. It's just these bolts. They're 10 millimeters. I used the socket. I already broke them loose. Pop those off, and then this thing should come off, give you a little more access. But I'm gonna do that off camera when I have more than one hand. And what I figured out for that is you need to untension it through the alternator. You see this bracket has a slidey thing that brings it in. Once that brings it in, tension on this belt goes off, and you can easily just unloop it. So what I did is I went ahead and marked with the same marker. I don't know, it kind of looks like a shadow, but it's right there. I'll drop an arrow where it was tensioned before I got started, because when you put it back together, you're gonna have to retension it correctly. You don't want to have too much tension, and you don't want to have too little tension on belts. So that's why I went ahead and marked it, and we are good to go now. This is the adjustment bolt, 12 millimeter socket. Just go ahead and loosen that up. Okay, so you're good to go on that. And then there is another one on the back here. Same thing, 12 millimeter. And it should be, I don't know if I can break this loose with one hand at this angle. 14 mil. So what I'm gonna do is just pop this off, pop that one on, and try to loosen that. Looks like I'm gonna need two hands again. All right, that one was really on there. I had to get the bigger ratchet to get that off, or to get that loose. But that's loose now. All right, I did figure it out. So yeah, you do loosen this one because that's the pivot bolt thing. I tightened this one back a little bit just to make it snug, because that's holding it into this bracket, but it's really this bolt. You just loosen this one as much as you need to, and then you can just simply pop it in like that. And as you can see, that alleviates all the tension, and that's how you can get the belt off. So it's pretty much just that simple. You can take this bolt all the way out, because the farther out it's going to be, the more it's going to allow you to push it in. I don't want to take it out. I just want to have it at the point where I can just pop off the belts like so. And there you go. For the power steering, as far as getting this belt untensioned, there is 3 bolts. Well, actually there's probably 2, but I loosened 3. So there's the main one that's going to be in here. Let's see if I can get it. That is a 14 millimeter bolt. You're going to crack that one loose just like you cracked this one loose on the alternator. You want to crack this one loose. This is a 12 millimeter. That is on the tensioner bracket. And then the bolt that is on here, I don't know if you can see it or not. Let me get out there. This is also a 12 millimeter. You want to back that off. And once you do all that, you'll be able to simply just push this one in, just like the alternator, and then boom, that's how you get that belt off. And that is the first one. So I don't know, you probably want to do that one first, second do the AC, and then third do the alternator. It doesn't fully matter, but you know, it's up to you. So now we're gonna do the AC one. I'm gonna have to figure this one out. So let's get this fully off. Get it off of this breaker bar. And one thing that I would say is try to label what goes where as you're doing this, so that when you put things back together, you're not having too many problems. This belt is not really worn down too much. It is like kind of rusty, but it's like mostly surface rust, and it's in pretty good condition, so this is good. They do make accessory belts for the RB engine that I do plan on replacing once I go forged. I'm gonna replace pretty much everything that I haven't touched already. So let's go ahead and do this AC, and then we'll be good to go. One side note, top dead center, outside of what I gave earlier or in the other videos, these are the timing marks that'll tell you top dead center as well. So make sure to line those up before you take this timing belt off. These belts don't matter as far as timing, but this does. And it also, goes with the cams and stuff, like I said, if that clip is in this video. So yeah, like I said, let me figure this one out. I'm pretty sure the tensioner is somewhere with this because I see the slot for it, but I'll know in a second. AC belt is really easy. There's nothing with the AC. You just crack this bolt loose. This is a 14, and then there's a bolt underneath here that is a 12, and that is, let's see if I can get it for you. This one right here, that is the adjustment one for the tensioner. So you just pop that loose, adjust this upwards, and then this one just comes on out. And that's pretty much how you get all the belts off, all the accessory belts off. They're pretty simple. Something that you're gonna have to do if you want to take the head off of the motor. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and organize, all these belts, and from that point on we'll continue with this teardown. So for this one, it was those 4 bolts that were holding this in on the little fan thing, the 410. There it is. The 4 10mm nuts that were holding that in. This just was being a prick to come off. But once you undo those, I had to pry it off in a couple areas and get it all, same old screwdriver and hammer type of deal. Then the actual pulley, this was left on here. Pretty sure this just, that just slides off. I'm gonna put that over here with it. And now you have the water pump pulley ready to go. So I think I said it in the last clip, but the next thing that has to come off is this crank bolt here. So what you got to do, if you're in the car, just find something to basically lock onto this and lock onto this breaker bar or whatever it is you're using, and then turn the car over and it should pop loose. But since I'm not in the car and this is not a running engine, I have to find something that's going to hold the engine in place and then pop this bolt off. So it's going to be more difficult. Another thing about those timing marks, the first mark on this harmonic balancer lines up with this timing mark on the cover. So there's that as well. But that is needed to get this harmonic balancer off, this cover off, and get access to the oil pump underneath, as well as the timing belt tensioners. So let's go ahead and see if we can figure this out. I'll show you what setup I come up with as far as getting this harmonic balancer off, and then we'll go from there. All right, so as far as getting this thing off, I didn't find a way to wedge it without like moving the whole engine assembly when I was trying to use the breaker bar. So impact, that's what you're gonna need. Unless you have a way that you can keep the engine from rotating from the back side, you're gonna need an impact to get this thing off. what was I saying? Outside of keeping the engine from rotating on the backside, and if it's in the car, you can kind of take a ratchet, stick it on here, and then fasten it to the loop on here, and then turn the car over. That'll pop it loose as well. But this pretty much got the job done. So we are good to go there. I'm gonna try to rotate this back to top dead center before popping this harmonic balancer off. So there's that, and then once you get this off, then it's the cover. But make sure you put it back to top dead center beforehand, because like I said, once you do that, once you interrupt all this, your timing is just out of whack, and it's just gonna be, you're gonna have to retime everything. So try to avoid that.
Oh, it's happening. Nice.
Yeah, that's how you get it.
We can just put an impact on this bitch.
I prefer slow and steady. I don't want to damage the threads because I don't have another harmonic balancer.
Smart man. Oh, back it down.
That's how you get that off right there. Harmonic balancer.
Feel how heavy it is.
Damn, this shit thick. All right, I'm gonna put that here for now. But always make sure to remember to have your engine at top dead center before you take that off. So lastly, you just got to remove this cover. 1, 2, 3 bolts for the cover, and that gives you access to the oil pump bolts. So I'm gonna take this off and then we'll continue. All right, so it's got some gunk on it. That has some gunk on it. Pop this damn thing. Get your ass. There we go. And now you got access to everything for the timing belt and the oil pump. You got the 2 tensioners right here. Mine's actually don't looking like they're in a bad condition at all.
There's a little surface rust.
Surface rust, but overall, I mean, my timing belt's good. I'm just replacing it anyway with the HKS. But yeah, most people will replace this. If yours is bad and super rusted, do replace these. But yeah, mine is looking good. So we'll go ahead and get that. But now you got access to the water pump bolts, the oil pump bolts, and the timing belt stuff too. All this has to come off in order to get the head off anyway. Well, the timing belt does in order to get the head off anyway. So that's the step that we're at. What you want to do is loosen these tensioners, and that'll release the tension on here. You'll be able to pull the belt off. 14mm bolt for the idler, or I mean not the idler, the tensioner. Pop that loose. That'll move this way and release this tension. So I'm gonna do that. Take this timing belt off. Can't stress to you enough how important it is to make sure this is at top dead center before you do all of this. If you don't take anything from this video, top dead center. That is all. On to the next clip. All right, for the oil pump, pretty simple. You got a bolt here, bolt here. You got a bolt here, 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 and here. And after you get all that, that'll slide this thing right off and you'll be good to go. There is a gasket behind it. Keep that in mind. I'm pretty sure all of these are 10mm bolts that are holding this in, but let me just confirm that for you. They are all 10mm bolts. So I'm gonna pop these off and we'll go ahead and knock this thing out too.
Oh, I'm recording.
That's right. So I'm just using a screwdriver to kind of like push this off. If you guys can't see, eventually you probably get it. Yep, there we go. Get your hands behind it and get that gear off. This ring that slides out after it as well. Notice that there's a slot on both of them for the crank itself. That's how you get everything off. Gonna need that to get everything out of here, and then you have the actual oil pump.
And our bolts, yeah.
It's 4. We're idiots. That's what's
no,
happening.
you.
I'm an idiot. That's what's happening. All right, guys. So as you can see, there are 4 bolts on the oil pan that keep this in as well. So it's the 10 millimeters up top, 4 at the bottom. Don't forget that, because then it's not gonna come out. And you're gonna be out here looking stupid. I knew I felt bolts. I was like, God damn it.
Yeah.
I need to hit it with my purse.
The purse is
Give me your eggs, bitch.
Did you take all the bolts out?
I don't feel another one. It was only 4 holes.
I'm talking about on the face of the pump.
Yeah.
So there's nothing that needs to be getting caught on then.
There's something over here. Alright guys, so what I figured out, or what's been known to me, is after you get all the bolts out, even these bottom bolts, you still cannot get this pump out. And the reason being is right here. This bolt on the bottom that goes into the pan will not allow you to pull this off. You have to drop the oil pan. So keep that in mind when going into this. The oil pan is not really that hard to drop. It's just a bunch of bolts around the side, as you can see. I don't feel like doing it, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Just undo those bolts, drop the pan, pull this off, replace it, put the pan back on. Stupid ass oil pan. But I'm gonna do that off camera. I'm gonna come back to when I'm pulling this off. We'll go from there. Guys, so as you can see, the oil pan has been dropped. It's a bunch of tedious screws. That's just one half. The other half is over there. When it comes to dropping the oil pan, remember that there is a gasket on the back side of it. Just taking a look under here. It doesn't look too bad. But yeah, definitely when you drop this oil pan, you're gonna have to scrape this gasket off, put on a new one. Me personally, I'm not gonna reuse this hardware. I've already ordered a hardware kit, so the oil pan's gonna have brand new hardware. And this is what I would be using for the gasket maker. Works fine, and you'll be straight with that. I'm not gonna be putting this back on in this video, due to the fact that it's probably going to take a week or so for my hardware to get here in order for me to finish things up. I also got a hardware kit for the oil pump, similar to what I did with the water pump. You see it's new hardware. I bought a kit for the oil pump as well. But yeah, reason why you got to drop the oil pan is because you have this plug that is in the pan. So when you're trying to take this off, that pan has to be dropped. You can see that it's all loose and ready to come out now, and you really just slide it off just like that, and that's a done deal. So yeah, that's pretty much how to get the oil pan off. And I guess for poops and farts, we could do a comparison. I don't want to get this too dirty. We could do a little comparison. Some people say that the N1 pump comes factory on the rb25 Neo. I can already tell an immediate difference. This port is bigger on this one. So I'm gonna debunk that right now and say that this is not a N1 oil pump. like I said, you can clearly see that this port right here, the one that goes into the oil pan, is bigger on that side, just to show. Outside of that, it looks like this port is also bigger. I don't know about this one though, but that's just the comparison. So the next thing you want to do is take off this gasket. All right, I got it off as much as I could. Basically, I used a combination of a razor blade, a screwdriver, flathead, and a hammer. It is an iron block, so you don't have too much to worry about, but definitely take the extra precaution to make sure that you don't put any grooves. A chisel is going to work better than a flathead, a sharp chisel, so it's getting like all of the stuff on there that's really on there, but I don't have one, so this worked for me. And then I came back and cleaned it all up with the razor blade. I used brake clean to kind of soften up the gasket itself, but we have a pretty clean surface, and we can go ahead and put the new gasket on. So as far as the new gasket, even for high horsepower applications, the OEM gasket is going to be fine. So that's this one, OEM from Nissan. I got mine's from same person that I got same company that I got the N1 pump from. They're in the UK. So mine's came with the gasket, and yeah, good to go on that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and just line all this up. It's kind of hard to do with one hand, but basically you just want to line it up, and then once you got it all lined up to the best of your ability, take like 1 or 2 bolts, put it in there so that it'll hold the oil pump, and then just start threading it. I don't know what this is, this little ring, but this just came out of the N1 pump, and I gotta figure out what that is and how to get it back in there. So yeah, the thing that I will say, as far as this, you see how there are these grooves on the crank collar. When people say to get the extended crank collar snout thing, that basically is this. This is the contact patch for these grooves in here. Make sure you line those up to that collar so that you can push this on fully. But outside of that, it's pretty much just pop it on, bolt it in, with the gasket of course, and you're good to go from there. Redo everything that I've done in the video from start to finish, but in reverse, and you're good to go. I'll drop the torque specs here, and I'm gonna call it a video on this. I'm gonna figure this out off camera outside of the video, because this is probably something that you guys are not going to experience. This might be a bad part, etc. So I'm gonna leave it at that. We're gonna finish this video off here, and hopefully this kind of helped you out. Unfortunately, I ran into some other problems that you probably won't run into, but all's well that ends well. So with that being said, like, comment, subscribe, follow the build. More things to come. See you soon.